Power to the people. We are back to do maintenance. You are tuned in to Keep It Clean one offs. We're going to call this one. I saw you in the comments, so let's chop it. We got my brother Bodega in the building, the commenter in question. No, I'm messing with you. We, we got the crew in the building. We got Ray here. We got Ed here. My brothers, how y'all doing?
What's happening? Doing
Blessed,
good.
still highly favored.
Yes. So what this is, we say often on the podcast, if you have a issue with some of the takes, feel free to keep it clean in the comments, and you may find yourself up here, depending on how serious you are. So in real time, we're gonna show y'all what that is. So this is in reference to the last episode we dropped a special shot during our Diddy segment. Bodega took issue with some of the takes that Ray and Ev had, I believe. Is that correct, my brother?
Yeah, kind of.
Okay.
Kind of. We'll get into it. We'll get into it.
Okay, cool. So I'm gonna read that off, and then we will explore the disagreement and see if we can find some common ground. Before I do that, if you are tuned in on the YouTube, well, you can only be tuned in on the YouTube for the one-offs. Please do subscribe to the page. We are on our way to 100. We almost there. Please
Yes,
lock
sir.
in,
Yes, sir.
y'all, lock in. And we do appreciate y'all. We about to keep it a buck, keep it a bean, and keep it clean.
And
Without
I want
further,
to add one more piece really quick.
what's up?
What this also shows is we do pay attention to opportunities and genuinely double down on the opportunity to have a cleanup if necessary. So we have a good brother like Bodega out here because he is saying something for y'all that are in the comments that just saying something just to say something. I'm gonna keep it clean with you. I don't entertain y'all. He at least gave some information where it's just like, oh, okay, yeah, let's chop it up. Cause some of y'all just be saying something that don't even have to do with the clip. It had nothing to do with what was even said in the clip, let alone full context of the episode itself. So my man's is respectful. He was validated by the homie Nick. So family is family to us. Let's come up here and chop it up, man. You know what I'm saying?
So the clip in question, I'm not gonna play it. I could just give a summary of what was taking place. Ev made a statement about the jury finding Diddy guilty and basing that on the idea that they saw Diddy as a pimp and Cassie as a quote bottom bitch. Um, I disagree with that and push back, framing abuse cycles and like kind of trying to not draw the line of accountability for a victim in my purview. Uh, this led to a conversation about are all top madams or quote unquote bottom bitches innocent in this sense, and there became a back and forth with me and Ray about accomplices versus coerced accomplices. The clip is on our Instagram at the Keep It Clean Show and our TikTok at the Keep It Clean Show, so you can find it there. I may clip it in here. We're gonna see. The comment in question. Bodega says, quote, I'm gonna wait for the full video before judging the clip, but boiling down known sexual trafficking, organizing, and weaponizing your company and status to deliberately inflict physical, emotional, financial, and sexual abuse to pimp culture is at best ignorance and at worst misogynistic abuse. Inshallah, the other two aren't lames. My brother, keep it clean. What you mean?
All right. So first things first. After seeing the clip, right, and then going back and looking at the entirety of the section of the podcast, right, I'm in both agreement and disagreement with certain parts. My overall stance of boiling it down to pimp culture, I believe, is very dangerous for us to do. The reason being is because yes, pimp has a Webster dictionary meaning, but it also has a cultural impact and a cultural meaning. And pimp, pimp culture, pimp and hoes, most people, especially among Black Americans, which is our target audience, is going to run that off as like, oh yeah, man, this is the same thing as like street level drug dealing or anything like that. We kind of shrug our shoulders. We say the game is the game and call it a day. And I feel like that's very dangerous for us to do because it very loosely summarizes what took place
Yeah.
among Diddy's years of abuse, and it doesn't really dive deep into like what was happening, why it's wrong, and the myriad of philosophical and weapons of power, you can say, utilized to get this off correctly. Av, I felt where you were going. Ray, I mostly disagree with your opinion, but we can talk about it.
Sure. I want to respond really quick. Just on the front side, we can be honest with ourselves. We do not do this podcast any favors with our clips. We be cheating ourselves.
I see
Crazy.
I see that
with our clips. This isn't even just for you directly. This is just in general. The clips we be putting out is as if we're trying to troll each other in the group chat, but y'all just happen to see it in real time. But at the same time, that appreciation of having that conversation and someone going back to actually watch the full take of it, because I can understand how it looked on that clip, and then even further conversations. I don't want people to think that it just stopped that day either. Nick and I have been going back and forth all week, and when I say go back and forth, that's not a negative context. We just been chopping it all week specifically with that. These are the types of conversations that need to continue to happen, because what is also factual in what you were saying, there was a myriad of things that's been going on. So even in our prior episodes, that's where, even from what you were saying, we're all in agreement, because one of my first things that I said about him was my struggle with her specifically was it's hard for you to make me believe that you didn't know, because we've known about this type of stuff for what is now pushing almost 30 years, at least from what, just hearing about what he specifically is involved in, right? So we're talking about the early 90s at best. If you just want to start it there, it probably existed maybe in his character a little bit before then, but we know bad boys became bad boys during the early 90s. So by the time this lawsuit came around, we was pushing 3 decades. You get what I'm saying? So I agree with you in that aspect. You see my sub tag, man. Keep him under the disappointment that I genuinely had with the way that they even approached it from the prosecution side is insane to me, because this was supposed, you can't ask for a better layup in the situation. To me, it was right there. Just finish the bucket, bro. Just, Mike and Ike drills. But yeah, man, I don't know which way you wanted to approach it first. Whether you wanted to finish with Ev on what you did agree with and how he was going about it, or just explore more to it, because I do also agree that pimp culture thing, we're not trying to support it.
Yeah.
We are not trying to support it. We understand that it's been a part of the culture, and we see it. A point that I made to Nick earlier this week is I think we're at that point now where it's not as prominent as it used to be, necessarily because of the rise of all of the movements, whether it be focusing on women, Me Too movement, even men's health and that type of stuff. We have been pointing out that type of stuff as this is not positive. You shouldn't do it. It's still there in some of the underlying tones of things, and we do need to address that too as Black people. Just what does that mean, and making sure everyone is aware this isn't something to be played with and then a goal to achieve either.
Yeah, and I also want to say something. I really want to clear this up, because I never even got to say this during the pod. Me and Nick been talking about this with the whole pimp word, even of why I used it. It was like a weird mental psyop trick that Nick and Ray enacted in without my even intention, because I was using those words specifically because of what they mean.
Put us in a trance.
Like, hey man, But because the thing is, the reason is that I really thought about that, like, once the charges came in, of like, what was the proof? Like, what was there being sought after to prove here? What was there to actually prove? And that's why I mentioned the clip in the hindsight, refollowing the case. And it's like, you were tending, like, and I ain't gonna rehash it, but again, it just how it looked was looking like a pimp. And me and Nick kind of was hashing it out. The reason I use those words is how we look at those, like how you said, Bodega, is how the word pimp, hoe, and how that is culturalized, stigmatized. It's looked at sometimes, most of the time in our culture, in a good way, how we kind of lament it to a way, especially with men. We look at those actions, hell, even in our music, even in our actions, we talk about pimping, we talk about ism, we use those terminologies in a everyday vernacular with most people, even in joking. And it's like, we make it seem like it's a good thing. We romanticize it and we try to make it where, oh yeah, it's cool. Like even we saw the video of what he did to her. Man, that's what you got. That's what you got to do. That's what you got to put the baby powder on your hand. Like
Mhm.
people will liken that such video situation to that, and it's
Mhm.
where I was using those because, hey, we need to understand we be popularizing and pushing this. Look at what we really seeing now with somebody that was somebody who we glorified for 30 years, and guess what we've been glorifying with 30 years with somebody who's supposed to be a legend, a GOAT, and all this behind it. And it's something where when you take the lens off, what are we really glorifying? What are we really paying attention to? And
Mhm.
that's what it was. And it's where, thank you. Everything you said earlier, just now when you started, that was kind of what I was trying to bring out of the conversation.
Mhm.
So that's why I'll say thank you. Thank you for everything you said, because you're, as they've all said, you're playing a part in what the conversation is for. But yeah, go ahead and continue. I'm sorry.
Okay. For the, I guess, the coercive piece, what was the hiccup in that for you, Bodega?
The
My bad.
coercive piece, right? And really going back to Cassie's, they were showing evidence of like her enjoying herself, her enjoying the fruits of her labor, the trips, the flirtation, these kind of things, right? To paint a picture of mutual interest, mutual kink, right? Like that was the whole defensive argument. The issue with that becomes that it's not we're not looking at this from like a nuanced perspective, right? And I mean,
Mhm.
the letter of the law is the letter of the law. It's not particularly designed, especially like RICO charges specifically, they're not specifically designed for nuance.
Hmm.
But
It's a fishnet.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, but we
Ricos are fishnets, man, not fish
yeah,
lines. Like it's a difference. Yeah. Mhm.
yeah, definitely. But the reality is that under any sort of duress, you are going to do what you need to do to either please the duresser or to escape from the duresser.
Mhm.
If you feel like escape is not possible, then you're going to do what you need to do to please. Maybe it backs off a little bit, anything along those lines. And that's primarily how I look at Cassie in this instance. It's not, oh yeah, this was great, this was fine, whatever case, whatever. I view it very much as emotional manipulation, financial manipulation, business manipulation. If you add in her deal with Bad Boy, there was drug usage, so who's to say when where she was under the influence of these drugs. And then there's also just the actual physical abuse and sexual abuse that come along with these, that would lead to a very pointed conclusion that you're under duress at best. At most, you are a victim of sex trafficking, using an enterprise and other members to do so, using NDAs to cover it up, using security personnel, label personnel, all these other type of things to contribute in these. And there is a pattern of this, right? So like, under the just standard definition of a RICO, this is a standard definition of a RICO. And R. Kelly's case closely mirrors it. The difference is that children were involved instead of
Yeah.
adults.
Yeah. My first question to you, or let me just start off with this because I also think this has been lost a few times in these conversations. I and pretty much all of us at this podcast, not even pretty much all of us at this podcast, are of the understanding and agreement. There is in no way, shape, or form he is not an ounce of innocent here
Yeah.
throughout totality.
Facts.
He peep the name again, like the subtitle there, keep him under the jail, bro. Like I'm on that side. So there, in what I was saying on that second piece, my stance in almost any of the topics that we've done on this particular platform has always came back to handle yourself accordingly to the best of your awareness. I feel a way when other people get brought into something, whether it be kids, spouses, whatever the case may be. I'm definitely one of those type of people. Hey man, I understand something happened to me, but when you bring somebody else into it, I feel some type of way, you know. So my question to you before I go on with that would be, you had mentioned a lot of this information and the pattern was aware to the public. Around when do you think that became prominent?
I
Like the
can't say.
noticing of the
Yeah,
pattern.
I mean,
Yeah.
I can't tell you that like publicly without the trial that the pattern of Diddy's abuse is public knowledge. I can't tell you that, right?
Okay.
The reason why I can't tell you that is because rumors are very different from facts. It's very hard to kind of
Right.
prove these things. I mean, like, yeah, we heard the same rumblings about R. Kelly. There's a little bit of, maybe a little difference, but I mean, for the most part, the same. But like, I can't tell you what the public knows. What I can tell you though is that if you have a shot at your dream, right? You hear some rumors, you hear rumors about anything along those lines, and you get that shot, are you not going to take it under the pretense that, this is a normal interaction?
I understand what you're saying. I think where it, to me, it depends on when you are addressing the potential of the pattern, right? For example, there were rumors and rumblings, and then there were actual tangible pieces of information. The gun charge that Shine took for him back in '99 was public information,
Yeah,
right?
it's true.
So, so rumors had started then, even within the context of him dating Jennifer Lopez at the time, her utilizing that as her way out because now it's on the public platform, whatever, right? During that time frame, we've also seen the fallout even on the business side of it. And I'm not using any of these as necessarily an escape for what happened. What I'm saying is, in those types of times when you're seeing that and you're acknowledging a pattern, almost similar to when people join groups that commit violent crimes, you've seen it, whether you heard it, you've seen it. How you verify that particular date, that's person by person. Because I agree with you, we can't just say a whole general statement for things. Some people might have been more in tune with the idea of hip-hop and rap in general, known who he was from different entertainment aspects, so they might have paid attention more to it. But once certain things became known, and by the time that they're stating that they first met, there was more rumblings, whether it be with Mace, Locks, Shine during his situation, Craig Mack, Biggie passing away is a tangible thing, right? You're seeing things happen around him that don't go well. Hell, we even have the fallout of day 26. So you have the music piece that you're speaking to,
Mhm.
entertainment piece that you're speaking to, and you also have the criminal aspect that we're seeing, two separate situations. Somebody passing that you have very close involvement with, there's a nationally known beef, and then you have the fallout of whatever happened with Shine. His sexual part, though, that's a little bit more difficult, and that's where I would be willing to concede there on that particular point. I don't remember myself, and even when I tapped in with my older brothers, I tend to go to them for certain music and entertainment pieces because they were teenagers during that time. So your memory, and then going into your early adulthood, you pay a lot of attention to what hits home to your likings, right? So they said they don't remember too much other than just the normal. He's famous.
Yeah.
Famous people do that type of stuff. You know what I'm saying? So that's where I kind of start
Yeah, and I mean,
going.
oh my bad, I
Yeah,
apologize.
the other part of it, because everything else I also agree with, acknowledging patterns and having to figure out what's going on in certain situations, where I start just to have questions, because I am not saying in any way, shape, or form that she wasn't a victim. I also want to make that clear too. She is in fact a victim. I said that there's certain pieces where you can acknowledge that there's a possibility of looking at her as more than just coerce, because you even have the definitions of compliance versus complicity to work with. And in that defense, if you're going just the legal matter of it, in the letter of the law, trying to work coerced defense comes with certain elements that's very hard to prove at certain times. And it also even specifies under full duress, meaning that you did not have any other option, or they will weigh, was the option that you took less of a loss than what the other option could have been. And without having that full totality of it, it's hard to use that even as a defense in legality situations of I am completely absolved of a situation because of this coercion. So when he's not around were the specific times that I'm bringing something up. and saying it's hard for me to see her as a victim when he wasn't around, and you have addresses being sent. If he's not around and you are making those same calls, and then if the people that you're trying to contact for these types of situations, hence the current civil lawsuit that was filed against her and Diddy just recently, if he's not around and then you're using him as a threat to get what you want, it's hard for me to see you as a victim or just go with the duress piece. That's part of what I'm bringing up. If you're doing certain actions and not necessarily having him physically present, but using him as a weapon towards somebody else, I start to have issues when people get brought into it. Kid Cudi thing, we could go back and forth on how it is that you might view it, because I do understand there's a larger amount of nuances, and that comes back to the lesser of the two losses scenario. If you don't give the address, what could have happened? You did give the address, we saw what almost happened. Him losing his life, would you weigh that out in court on did his life mean more or less to you, and now you're arguing such things as complicity? So those are just the spots that I'm hitting on. Majority, if not almost all of it, it could be argued all of it, she's 100% a victim. I didn't want it to come across or make it seem that I don't believe that she what was I trying to say? I don't want it to come across that I in any way believe that she is the full-on antagonizer or a majority antagonizer at all. She went through a lot. That's where I was at on it.
Yeah, no, I definitely appreciate your explanation and adding your nuance to it, because again, like you said, the clip doesn't do y'all justice. And even after the clip, even when you get to the entirety of the conversation, there's not this much nuance in that conversation, probably because we're having a heated debate and we're going back and forth. We're all trying to get our opinions off. This is the
Yeah.
part of that conversation that happens like offline.
Listen,
And quite
real
to
quick,
that,
real
where I
quick, hold
messed
up,
up.
real
No, but
quick.
here's where I messed up. The
We
other part,
be
we spoke
stuck
about
in
it already. And so in my mind is like we kind of touched majority of it when we first talked about it on the pod a minute ago. So
Yeah.
I didn't really think there was like much more. We were just Nick and I just like to debate on certain things where we feel like, all right. And then once we locked in, I don't even think there might be certain times where you go back and it's like Nick didn't believe that. He just felt the way we
Oh
were
no,
trying to chop it off
I
at the end.
stand on what I be on.
So like
I don't be
Fair enough.
capping. I
I'm
do
not
not be
going to tell
capping.
you like about like podcast etiquette and like, presentation to audiences and
Mhm.
those kind of things, but you never know when an audience is going to pick you up. So like
Big
you
facts.
talked about it before, you know what I'm saying? I'm seeing this clip now, right? I don't know what happened before.
Yeah. And
I
just real
don't
quick for
know where it's
clarity,
been.
we be kind of I do run clips by everybody before they go out. So nobody is blindsided by this shit. Everybody co-signs the clip before it goes. But also, we have a minute.
Yeah, it's true. You only have a minute.
We got a
It's
minute.
true.
So, it's supposed to get you to go see the full thing. So, but yeah, y'all continue.
And the other piece, really quick, adding to that too, you said the reason why this podcast exists, because we're not aiming necessarily for perfection. We're aiming to build conversation. So even
Yeah.
if we have to circle back, that's how the name came. I have no issue cleaning it up as you as you just saw, because I kept asking niggas like I'm not really sure what we would necessarily be debating, because I know I've said previously this is where I stand. He keep him under the jail. That was one of our first clips, specifically
Yeah.
saying keep that man under the jail. You know what I'm saying? So what you're saying, I fully acknowledge, because someone might pick up that clip and I'm willing to be in the position to say, hey, let's talk about it. And even if you don't want to talk about it, we have stuff out there that shows for a fact. And even before this podcast shows for a fact, this is the character I bring. So we're still going to have to talk about it. I'm willing to go and just allow things to happen, because I get what you're saying. And one of the reasons that we made it in the first place, we've always been chopping is, I mean, what happened in conversation? We lost that aspect of it. We
Facts.
lost it in the essence of trying to build community, because this particular topic, and why we were willing to do it, this goes back to us as Black men in the Black culture. So can we at least talk about it before we just get to a polarizing, you feel this way and everything else besides it is wrong? You know what I'm saying? But in the nuance of what I gave you, did you have, like, what's your opinion on that? Now that you have updated information, I was able to explain it a little bit more. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, my thoughts are I agree mostly. Where I don't agree with is um physically being around, or like physical presence doesn't, like the absence of physical presence doesn't mean that presence doesn't exist,
For
is
sure.
is what I'm saying there. So like those moments where Cassie was away from Diddy, right? And it
Hmm.
appears that like she weaponized his name, or weaponized, his star power, or anything along those lines to get what you want. I feel as if it can be easily argued that you're still under, contractual, you're still under like workplace abuse, right? At least
Hmm.
you're still under financial abuse. You're still under emotional and psychological abuse, right? And so these other power dynamics play a direct role, especially among like, among like a years of abuse. They play more of a direct role than the physical aspect ever can, and they usually have very, very lasting impacts, including the abused taking traits of the abuser and
Yeah.
then perpetuating their abuse through it. It's like, but again, I mean, in a legal sense, you're not arguing any of that, right? Like from a legal standpoint, you're not arguing any of that, and to argue it would be a monumental task.
Yeah. Yeah.
But really, like where I wanted to, I guess, add clarity is that like, yes, the legal standpoint, he got off on a RICO, cool, whatever case. By the letter of the law, his actions match the RICO, but the more important conversation is the actual cycles of abuse, how
Hmm.
those abusive things play a role and shape a person and their decisions and their actions, and how that plays even further into, you could say things like the patriarchy aspect of the capitalist society that we live in. Like you
Hmm.
can take it that far, because male preferential treatment, the power dynamics of women, or like all those other kind of things. So yeah, that's what I was getting to in that very, very short comment.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie to you, man. Everything you said is the reason why I'm on the side of the prosecution failed so miserably,
Yeah,
too.
I
Because
agree.
between the introduction of the big hit on the RICO was you talking about the baby oil, but also how it was listed with a bunch of drugs. You mentioned guns, drugs, and everything else. So you set the tone
Yeah,
so high because when people think about that type of stuff, it's like, man, this is the worst of the worst. Is there bodies on these? Like you start fathoming it. And then once you get into the actual case to try it, yes, they're for the 5 counts. Somewhere sexually related, sexual assault, prostitution, trafficking, right? 4 of the 5 counts were something with that. But that's not how you set the premise. So
yeah, no,
going in there to argue that, it almost, unfortunately, to your point with the patriarchy and its usage, and then the idea of women being sexual beings and the quote unquote coolness of pimping, sex isn't as serious as drugs, trafficking, and guns. So you're looking at it as like, oh man, he had sex in weird ways. And that's where I genuinely felt that's the failure, because you handled this so poorly.
yeah,
And to go in there and not understand the utilization of terminologies, and understanding where there was enough there, that the way that text read is just, man, y'all didn't try. Y'all didn't try. It was boys being boys. And that's tough. I agree with everything you said on that piece, because the nuances and the morality of it, I felt there was more here than there was the R. Kelly case, because R. Kelly case had more situations of permission. There was more parentals being
yeah,
involved in the subjugation of these. Like there was more to get him off. Where with Diddy, how did you miss? Right? Like
yeah.
that's how it felt. How did you miss? And yeah, yeah, I'm
No,
there with it. I think the portion that's hard to prove, whether you go morally or legally, is the very specific part when you said them taking on their personality, because now you're trying to show whether that was you or was that him in that cycle of abuse. That voice note of her saying I'll kill you, when she was when they played that in court, in that moment when she said I will kill you, in that moment when we know that's a free phone call for her, she wasn't physically present. Why I said that specifically, because what you are highlighting, He wasn't there. So in that moment, are you utilizing him as a weapon for your own sake, or in that moment did you take on his personality? And that's right there where you will start to see the separation. Is that you? Is it coerced? Is it him? Or
When
is it
you,
complicit?
I'm gonna jump in right quick. I think when you apply like what Bodega was saying, as far as like all of the power dynamics in context and in tandem with the action, it's like we all saw Cassie in '05. Do she look like somebody that's running around talking about "I will kill you"? You know what I mean? And not to say that she wouldn't, but just to say you've never seen anything like that. And when I apply the fact that you with this dude who we've all seen bug out for entertainment, dead ass serious, like we know he's off, and now you've been under bruh's control more or less for however long, getting to a point of being like, yeah, I'm aggressively telling somebody I'm gonna kill you is like, that's not far-fetched to
Sure.
you know what I'm
But
saying?
then you would also be admitting that she was aware of that personality before she got involved.
Not necessarily,
No.
because if you
Because what you just said, it was known that he had been doing this. So
we
when you
saw
still
no,
went,
what I'm saying is this. We saw him do all of this. Like we've
okay,
seen the videos of Diddy slamming phones and what more can I do and throwing shit and all of that. But at the same time, male preferential treatment, the patriarchy,
yeah,
all of that is also celebrated. So it's
yeah,
not so much a negative connotation until you get in behind the closed door and the throwing the phone is thrown at your head.
for
Now it's
sure.
different. Like at that point, we have now we have to look at this totally different, because yeah, bruh, it's crazy and oh, it's wild, and you might like a wild lifestyle, but nobody likes to be abused. So that's where I
Yeah,
kind of cut the line.
I
The
can
more
I can
we,
track that.
I was
No,
saying,
I'm saying I can track that.
the more we talk about this, because I hate to kind of go backwards a little bit, but Ray, I ain't gonna lie, like even when your description, when you was like explaining your perspective, like now I got a little bit more questions now.
Ask the question.
Because even in this, like how you were saying, your big thing in this component is when she left. And we're still talking about this. We're talking about this specific case here.
A
Why are
big
we
thing. I haven't
consistently?
mentioned when she left in anything I said though just
No,
now.
no, no.
Are you talking
That's
about
what I'm talking
overall in the
about back.
previous
That's what I said. I
conversation?
said that I'm talking about
That
the entire conversation. That's why I said it.
that
That's
that was
why.
never my biggest proponent though. That was a
But
part
no,
of
wait.
what I was
But that's
explaining,
what
but that wasn't
every.
the biggest piece.
Let me chop every. As you said, this entire through, all you keep saying was a big factor. Was well, she left, so you were aware, or like you're aware. You said that multiple
No,
times.
no, her leaving and her being aware of him. I said it in our first conversation, but y'all kept bringing up her age of when she met him, and I'm understanding of men preying on younger women. That wasn't my argument. Hold on. I was saying by even her age, we had enough on Diddy that was out circulating to where I can't say you didn't know who he was. There was like you going to meet somebody, you weren't unaware of who Diddy was.
That's not
I
what I'm
said that from the
talking
jump.
about.
Do you mean who he is as like just like a
The
celebrity, a
dickhead.
person? Oh, a more I mean, okay, this is not me copping a plea for Diddy, but I am going to say, as a person who operates roughly in the music business, it is very challenging to actually confirm what is true and what is false
Right.
about people and how they handle their business. There's a
Facts.
lot of things with people who they appear to be great business people on the outside forefront. You meet them, cool, whatever case. Then you get behind the scenes with them. You see how they actually doing business. Like, yo, this shit is nuts. Excuse my language. And then there are people who you hear that like who you've heard that do bad business or whatever case, and then you come to find out that the business wasn't bad. There was a disagreement, or there was
Right.
a letter. Like it gets extremely nuanced on that side, like on the business side. And so, like from the outside looking in, it's very hard to tell what the issues were between the Locks and Diddy, or Mace and Diddy, Biggie's estate, those kind of things before those details started to come out. When you were looking from the outside looking in on in '05, you Can't call it.
You got to think back in 05 with the
2 people
new
had
of
jail
internet,
time.
you don't really know a lot of
Move
stuff.
the business aside. 2 people had jail time. Jail time or
Two-
death.
I mean, 2 people had jail time, but I mean, if we're just
Or
again,
death.
we yes, and
But
definitely.
Sean, I mean, at the time, didn't Sean say he shot the gun?
Sean lied on the stand to protect his boss because he thought his boss was then going to protect him. His boss did not protect him. So that's what led to their fallout. This fallout was like, hey bro, you know what I'm saying? I'm the real life gangster. I'll take the charge. Cool. Look out for me on the back end. Diddy didn't do any of that. Diddy immediately made a song talking about some not guilty. Okay, all right. Oh, okay, all right. But like that was Shine's beef with Diddy when he was in prison. But again, when you talk about the legal aspect of it, right? Yes, somebody is in prison, right? You only know the legal verdict, right? None of us study law. Well, I don't study law anymore. I won't speak for y'all. And then Biggie dying. I mean, Biggie dying is more so back then attributed to the beef with Pac, not necessarily his interactions with Diddy. In 2025,
Right. In hindsight,
you know
you
what I'm
can make a
saying?
case. Yeah.
Hindsight is always 2020, but it's also always biased.
Mhm. And I'm not disagreeing that the element behind the doors of what possibly happens could be hearsay either way, especially in the entertainment business. I'm using both what the rumor mill might have had on him, what, for lack of better words, rumor mill might have had on him on the entertainment side, along with what he was tangibly associated with on that side, had enough to where questions should be asked. In my opinion, it was enough out there for where questions should be asked,
I
and
mean,
that's where. So to back to Ed's point, sorry, my man. Back to Ed's point on what you were saying. I'm remembering what you're talking about when I was saying when she left because I referenced the Kid Cudi text message being sent, and then her and her now husband. I did not. I'm remembering what I'm talking about and what you're referencing. That wasn't the bulk of my claim. It was part of the claim of what I was acknowledging in those moments of me saying I don't think she's in totality 100% innocent.
Right.
So I do
And
remember what you're talking about. So her leaving and then dating Kid Cudi, giving away the address, I referenced that, right? When Diddy got mad, whatever the case
Mhm.
may be, because my stance, just like I was saying earlier, Bodega, I take a hard stance, and I'm not necessarily even aiming to be right or wrong in this moment. I take the stance period of, man, getting other people involved, I start to feel away. I get, even if you were getting caught up in and this was due to the violence that you were handling, I just have a hard time when other people get dragged into certain situations. So
and
I'm going to initially take that side until we get further details, because some of the ways that it was presented and the ways that some of these people are coming forward, they didn't volunteer for this. So when
I
you
want
get
to
brought into something involuntarily,
I want to ask you,
I'm
right?
usually going to take that stance.
I want to ask you, right? Do you think that stance is a bit idealistic in the sense that like abuse is never clean cut as it's affecting one person?
It could be idealistic. It could be based on the situations, because the same way where I think for some of us that have experienced certain pieces of life, you can also argue the gang culture we celebrate is in fact abusive. And if you've been
For
in that
sure.
oh,
situation,
For
facts,
right,
sure.
you
For
yeah,
have
sure.
people that's
that's
above you,
yeah.
either,
facts.
and you have people that's above you, and as soon as a crime happens, right, and that's why I asked you even on the episode, or I'm sorry, not on the episode, in our text messages, are you specifying sexual assault when you take this case? Because take that same gang culture situation, if you know that it's abusive, but then when it gets tried, even though big homie told me to go execute the mission,
Mhm.
I felt threatened if I didn't do it on what could
Mhm.
happen, but the
Mhm.
end results of whatever I did,
Real quick, though,
is that coerced?
I think that's more of a indictment on the state and how they process that. Because I would agree with you that should be processed and put in context of this is a predatory nature of situation. But then that also gets to the fact of you would have to actually put resources into those places so that those things aren't in play anymore. And we know that that's not about to happen.
Not only that, and that's where when I was telling Nick the messages, you would also have to prove what is voluntary and what isn't by legal definition. When you going in there to
And
try these cases, if you're defense or prosecution, you would have to try that. And part of it where the victims are getting harmed, where I was having that pushback specifically, because it's coming back to me live in real time. I had that pushback specifically because now the victims of the victims,
Mhm.
they just kind of have to accept that and hope that you, by branch of a tree, can reach the main problem, which is in this case Diddy. Me almost dying in that car was involuntary. If I'm Kid Cudi, I think we can all agree on that. So
What you
whether
mean? What do you mean?
when the alleged attempt on his life when his car blew up because
Mhm.
of the right,
What do you mean that's involuntary? That's what I'm
I didn't
saying.
sign up for that type of danger in my life. So you putting me there was involuntary.
But I don't. But then it's like, did she sign up to be asked that question?
Of what's the address? No, you didn't
Yeah,
sign up to be asked that question, but the question was asked. So
right.
when you're
So in
proving
that,
it, once that moment occurred, you would have to prove whether this next step was voluntary or not. That's how it's
now,
practiced legally.
and
Mhm.
a part of that, which goes back way back to Bodega's very beginning explanation, that's still under duress. That's literally fight or flight. That's what cycles of abuse are. It's fight
So
or flight. When
I,
Bodega was saying you have to either acquiesce or survive, like
now
survive or run
I
away. That's what
and I would
the
have no
address is.
issue. I would have no issue with that. Then we would, if we then immediately, and I'm not using this as an excuse, let me be clear. If we take that stance, we would immediately have to start having that conversation for every other version of this style of abuse. That's why I brought up gang initiations, going through the gang life, things of that nature, because now you would have to have it for all of the processes of abuse. And are we there yet? Because go
Now,
back to what y'all are saying. Here's why I'm defending it, because go back to what y'all were saying even earlier with the pimp culture. Pimp culture is cool. It was is you're starting to see people attack it directly, but because it was so cool, you don't take it serious. Gang culture, things of that nature is cool. So you already have kind of moving goalposts depending on what it is that is in these nuanced cases of cycle of abuse that's occurring.
I mean,
This might be more attractive to me, so I don't think it's as bad as this is a chord that I might have. So I'm going to make sure I focus in and then now get back to the source. We handle things differently depending on what the description is, but we should have that conversation. I will agree with y'all there. Until that conversation is had, now that we have additional victims, even if it's part of the cycle of the abuse, I would want to know in each of these cases that are brought forward, we need to prove whether or not this was voluntary or not. If you prove that it was involuntary, I'm with you. I have no issue with that either. But based on what I saw and what was presented there, I did not feel that way about this particular situation.
and just so that we're clear, because I feel like we all have additional comments, but Ray, you're discussing the legal definition of voluntary versus involuntary versus the more, I guess you could say, emotional philosophical side of the cycle of
Yes.
abuse.
Yes.
Okay.
Legally.
Okay. All right. Have you can go ahead because
No,
okay.
that was actually a good answer. That kind of helps clarify what side this is being looked from too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
I
When
think
there needs to be an angle of both sides being looked at in this.
if we look at
No,
the
for sure. Because if we remove the legal aspect of it, because that's where when I responded to Ev, we were talking about the jury and how it was presented. That was the premise.
Mhm.
In the legal aspect, it was in
Mhm.
court of that. So I'm speaking to the premise of, we, as far as I knew, we're speaking courtroom.
Legally, duress, also known as coercion, is a defense that can be used in both criminal and civil cases when a person is forced to act against their will due to threats or unlawful pressure. In essence, it argues that the defendant's actions were not freely chosen due to a reasonable fear of immediate harm.
But
Yes.
again,
And
I
in most
mean,
cases, though, in the legalities of it, when you look at case law and how it's been applied, it's very hard to even find a case where that was used specifically in something like a sexual assault. It's usually utilized if a coerced confession was given, or I gave up this type of information under duress, and it usually involves the investigative side.
But does
On
that
the other part of it, from what you're also presenting, if you utilize that, it still comes with those elements. Those three elements will determine whether or not you can even utilize a coerced defense as your case. there. Though, with if you got 2 out of the 3, it's not enough based on how it's written by definition.
I guess it's like how it's usually applied for me. If you're going by the letter of the law, it doesn't necessarily matter because we're going by the letter of the law, not
Are we
how it's
still speaking
normally
court,
applied.
or are we just talking like as
Yeah,
people?
the legal definition of duress.
I mean, you have to have
The threat of
the
imminent harm,
right.
reasonable belief, no reasonable escape. Yeah,
And
like
and so you're arguing, just like I texted you, you would be arguing the word reasonable. That's the attack and that's the defense. You're arguing reasonable.
right. And
So if I could prove that it was reasonable in some way, that defense falls apart. That's where the struggle is in that situation.
You need a legal precedence to I mean, when if you're talking about court, you're talking about prosecution, all those kind of things, right? You're either going in using legal precedents as a reinforcement of what you're arguing, or you're looking to create legal precedents. If the prosecution was looking to create the legal precedence of this being a RICO, this is why this is a RICO. These are the mechanisms in place that were utilized for this, and this is the cascading effect of those. They would have had a much better argument instead of painting him as a, oh yeah, this is a drug kingpin who also dabbles in
Yeah.
sexual trafficking. Like, this is just an aspect to support his money laundering or anything along those lines, when the RICO itself was the sexual abuse, was the NDAs, it was the trafficking, like it was those things. But it becomes extremely challenging. It becomes
Mhm.
extremely challenging to create a new legal precedence, and
So
time and money and all those other kind of things.
sorry
and
to even cut your
and
knowledge.
oh
My
yeah.
bad, really quick. While I have this thought, if you flip it, you could it would have made so much more sense legally. If you led with the sexual trafficking, the sexual assault, and everything, and then as the underlier, he was using these threats because here are the guns and drugs, and this is what's enforcing it. You have a whole different perspective legally and even from defending it on the moral aspect of it. If I'm approaching it just going through the court, if I lead with this was all sexual assault and she's sending that text message like, hey, here's the address, or hey, I'm going to kill you because did y'all not also see the guns and the drugs he was doing? So she knew that was a thing. That flips the entire script, but instead you led with the baby oil and whatever else, and then now you dumbed it down and you're in attack. That's my opinion on it. My bad. Sorry.
you good. Yeah, I guess my frustration with it, and this ain't at none of y'all, it's just like the idea that whether it was led with the guns and all of this into the sexual assault, or the sexual assault was the spearhead that and was enforced by the guns, it's like regardless, we got sexual assault and threats.
Mm-hmm.
Like we don't even need all of the other reinforcements of like, well, what is going? It's like once we have videos of abuse, confessions of sexual assault, like on record, under oath, all of that's like, what are we doing? I don't even know what the deliberation is about
I
at that
also want
point.
to say there should be a
Protecting
lawsuit that
interest.
went out to those people that signed that NDA. There
Say
should be
again.
there should be a lawsuit for specifically that video. Whoever signed that NDA or whoever had the deal going on at the hotel and received that money for it should also be a lawsuit and jail time for them as well for accepting that and hiding that type of footage.
I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at that. What was you finna say, Bodega?
No, I was saying that I think the largest frustration with it, and apologies if I get too philosophical. You know how I just be running off, but like arguing the moral standpoint, right, and the legal standpoint, ultimately is within the context of the power dynamic at play. The power dynamic at play is capitalism, racism, and misogyny, as three pillar anchors for control and everything else, right? Like, they're not going to be arguing in court against these ultimate power plays, right? And so, like, boiling it down to what Diddy did, how Diddy did, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's almost like asking two white powered sides to argue against their own best interests to find this brother guilty of Rico. Is
Yeah,
how, like, is ultimately how I look at it. And so, like, the frustration comes in at is like, bro, all five counts should have been guilty. Nigga, you should never see the light of day again, right? And
facts.
you should
Yeah.
have to live with that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Death penalty, cool, whatever case. But like, I want you to live for 60 years, 60 more years. Would you knowing that? And then be like, yeah, nah, we also gonna get you up out of here. But that's just like my personal
Yeah.
idea of the punishment.
But where does that, I guess, where does that leave us in the sense of like, okay, because that gets us in the I guess nihilistic space of like they not finna do that. So then how do we go about protecting our women, protecting ourselves, protecting our community from this shit if the damn court won't do it?
We got to be more hands-on would be my answer, and kind of what we've been pushing in general for.
Grab him.
Like we say the vague things, and we've been getting better at it. And when I say we, I'm talking about just usually as a people overall. We will always talk about, man, yeah, we need to build community. No, describe what that specifically is and make sure that that little girl gets home and knows these are the ways that things move and you keep them safe. Describe putting them in community situations to where they understand each other and then they can have potential growth and not feel like these are the only ways that you can go get that growth. So with being very direct with it, we have to be hands-on. And on the flip side, grab him, because there's a few of us. Diddy just happens to be someone that's famous and unfortunately is in that same structure that Bodega is talking about. You get to play those white power games up there.
Mm-hmm.
We know a lot of broke Diddies in our near neck of the woods. We know a lot of broke Diddies with no money running this same type of scheme. Grab him. However, you have to utilize it in that way to clean it up for what you're seeing in your immediate future, because that could be your son and or daughter right there. That could be you that quickly.
Mm-hmm.
That could be a spouse of yours, a significant other, and the decisions of even speaking to what could cause that happen so much more frequently down here, right? So that type of stuff. Address that person. Get
That's
a
it.
group together. Y'all figure it out. Address that person, man, because you see it now. So if you let it go here, and we kind of made that thing like dismantle the piece of what we've been talking about of making pimp culture cool in language
Mm-hmm.
and in handling in real time.
Keeping it like practical, right? Because in practice, because we've talked about this shit of, not checking your homeboys or not checking your homeboys, or even if it's not your homeboys, just checking a man that's doing some bullshit, right? We know the conflict that's gonna come with. So does it become some Superman shit, or like is there a practical way to go about that, or is it really just we standing on this 10, and if you on that bullshit, you on that, and we on that until you get the fuck out of here?
I mean,
And
unfortunately, there's going to have to be people who stand on that 10.
yeah,
Like the truth of the matter is, if we want to create a space of mutual interdependence, right, where this is how we function, these are our rules, this is our morality, you know what I'm saying? You still have your nuances, your differences, or whatever the case, but like, some of us got to take the bullet, and that's just what it is. But like, it has to be a repeated action, and it has to be something that is clear, concise. We don't do this. We don't tolerate this. We're not on this. This is not like, and if you on that, at minimum you're outcasted, at maximum you out of here.
You packed out.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
but there's gonna be those instances where people take those bullets.
I
There's not
think
another way
to
around
build
it.
Yeah.
to build on what he's saying, stand on 10 doesn't even necessarily have to be physical either, because even in the conversation, somebody's going to do that. And that kind of goes to something that you and I have spoken about before, Nick. And it's like, man, sometimes in what we're trying to do when we speak on community and culture is understanding it's a team aspect, and there's roles. Not everybody's going to be the front person, protester person. Not everybody's going to be the person at town hall trying to make sure you get this pass for this parade and work on the actual legislation. Not everybody's like in that small grassroots movement, knowing that role. So on this panel of four is like one of us might be the, hey man, I don't know if y'all see this, we need to either have a conversation with him, that type of talk guy. One of us might be the, nah, let's go check him right now in person, and if he has something to say, I'm gonna deck him in his shit. We have those different roles, so but you can still stand on 10 in each respective role. Hey man, either you fix that or you can't be around us. However we decide you can't be around us, that's up to you. Nick might slide you, I might cut you off, but I'm giving you the opportunity to fix that until you get fixed. Like you can stand on 10. To me, I love what you said. That covers the wide variety, because sometimes someone gets that bullet, man. Sometimes, man, but there's no way to get to that, in my opinion, without there being some type of pain point in the growth.
Yeah, that's facts. That's facts. Okay. All right. Does everybody feel better? Everybody?
Yeah,
Y'all?
I mean, it's been a good conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Man. And we love more of these. I love Bodega's perspective.
Yeah, we might. Yeah, you might be back, brother. You might be back a couple times. We might see you soon.
Hey,
You know what I'm saying?
hey man, I'm here for it, man. These type of conversations, like, they need to be had, and they need to be had multiple times. Different perspectives, those kind of things, but most importantly, like, a mutual understanding needs to come in play. Ultimately, we're all on the same page. Not only is that nigga guilty, but he need to be under the prison, never see the light of day again. The nuances of, you know, who, what, when, where, why, and how, the legal, the philosophical, those things we can discuss. We can have a difference on opinion on, but we still overarching agree. That's cool. And we need to expand that to the diaspora. You know what I'm saying? Like, bringing more people in, having those communications, creating a system of interdependence where, like, hey, look, I know you gonna look out for my kid because I'm looking out for your garden type shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, those type of things. But they also, like, slick need to happen out, like, not within public view. What I mean by that is, like, social media, right? The diaspora be running around arguing with each other on Twitter. That's none of the other side business, right? Hey, we're under systems of oppression together. We collectively are the most oppressed. How that happened, our nuances within that oppression, great, fine, cool, whatever case. We can discuss that all day long. How we mimic the actions of our oppressors, you know what I'm saying? We can discuss that too. But none of that has anything to do with, like, you know, we don't need to have that on the outside.
Yeah.
And
agreed.
I do want to also say, man, I'm proud of y'all boys for doing it, because this is what we're trying to practice here in all seriousness, is not only having a discussion, but also keeping the discussion going, because it's not just going to be a one time. This particular thing that we are talking about won't be the last time we talk about it. It needs to be a continuous conversation. Hell, we might circle right back to this depending on how that civil suit goes, and maybe more details come out.
Yeah.
With that also being said, once you continue the discussion going, being able to change with the discussion, being able to keep yourself updated with that discussion. Stances might change as you go along and press things. As information comes out, you just need to do better with the information. So don't stop the talk, don't avoid the talk, don't stop the talk, and don't be rigid against that change.
Yeah, it's a fact. It's a fact, because all we trying to do is get to a better understanding. I know for me personally, I'm trying to push more empathy for everybody. So I'm pushing for better understanding in all of these situations. And y'all know I believe everything is interconnected. So, you know, what happens to Cassie can happen to the lady across the street from you, can happen to the person you share a bed with, can happen to, and it shouldn't be because it's happened to somebody close to you, now you care. You know what I'm saying? We got to get to a point where having these conversations repeatedly and pushing these thought processes and repeatedly gets us to a position where it's understood. The thing that they proved for Diddy to be a pimp is some bullshit and he needs to go for that. That's the goal that we're trying to get to change the collective conscious of how they view some of these things, because it is a problem and it's not getting us anywhere. It's holding us back and it's keeping us back. So yeah. But yeah.
And if he happens to get caught slipping, I'm not mad.
You know, I'm
not mad.
It's so
like I just want y'all to know that we're not mad if it just so happens to happen. Just
it's what it is. Be like that type shit. So this has been Keep It Clean One-Offs. I appreciate y'all, Bodega. Thank you for popping in with us, brother. We appreciate your conversation and giving us your time.
Absolutely.
Go follow the brother. Go follow the brother.
At Eastside Bodega _ I believe that's on everything. But yeah, man. Keep it clean. One-offs. Y'all will see this soon. Keep it a buck, keep it a bean, keep it clean. We out.
So have a good one.